And we're live streaming now. So, Susan Michelle, this mic is all yours.
Hi, this is Susan Michel. It is so great to be here. I am in Western Massachusetts on a beautiful day. The sun is shining. I am the author of Surrender to Joy, From Suicide to Serenity. I teach the transformational truth of A Course in Miracles, which we are all here to study, to learn, to embody the knowledge of. I have been studying A Course in Miracles now for almost 35 years. Time flies. And I can sincerely say that it is my personal path to peace, love, joy, and happiness because when I embody the principles, I feel so good. And when I don't, life is much more difficult. And my good friend and soul sister, Myrna Skoller, is here today with me. One of her many books is Private Lessons with Jesus, which is the perfect complementary text to the Course in Miracles workbook for students. She channeled the teachings of Jesus, which is so very beautiful. And how are you doing today, Myrna?
Oh, very, very well. I had the flu for a week and now I'm completely healed. In fact, I didn't even think it was a full week, which really surprised me because usually when I get the flu, I mean, it really lingers and lingers. So I love today's lesson. Only salvation can be said to cure. So maybe I finally got it through my head how to be cured, but that's another story.
I know it is a beautiful lesson. Only salvation can be said to cure. They're all good, right? They're all really good. It's just really digesting the information of each lesson wholly.
Yeah, you mentioned 35 years in the study of A Course in Miracles, and when you say that, I can't help but feel the attachment to you with that because we met each other 35 years ago at A Course in Miracles class, and this to me that's so extraordinary that that we held true to it to the point that we can really mend our way in so many different areas together.
Yeah, it's a strong bond. It's a strong connection. So, yeah, I know. 35 years ago, you and I, Lisa Natoli as well, was part of Jeff Murnov's group in the Upper West Side of Manhattan. I had already been studying A Course in Miracles for a bit of time before joining his group, but that group was incredibly transformational. He was a very wise and clear teacher, and I'm so grateful for the time that we had with him, because it really pushed me much further on my path. So that's such a blessing. So I will start today, as I usually do, with the introduction from my book, Surrender to Joy. I recited this meditation over and over in my meditation this morning. This line, I should say, I recited it over and over in my mind in my morning meditation because I think it's so empowering. And I will say quickly too, whoever else wants to share, I know Odzi, you said you might stay for a while, but whoever wants to share, please feel free to raise your hand and share any thoughts you have on what we're talking about because I love to hear everybody's shares. I learned so much from people. A Course in Miracles clearly says that we cannot get back to heaven on our own. We need each other. So it's just it's such a beautiful platform that we have here in Gather for A Course in Miracles. So, what I write in my book, I write, my passion is God. God is love and joy and beauty. He is all that is good in the world. Everything else is our own miscreation. When we are filled with joy, we are connected to God. When we are not joyful, we have lost our connection to all that is real. This is my message. It can be clarified with 3 simple words: surrender to joy. There is nothing to find. All we need to do is surrender. There is nothing to find in the world because there is no world. We are constantly creating our own experiences. The external world that we experience is nothing more than a reflection of an internal condition. So we are always creating our own circumstances in life. And what we think we're searching for in the world is not going to satisfy us. That's why it's really important to make peace and connect to source energy first, because the world can't satisfy us. It's connecting to God, which is our essence, which is unconditional love. It's connecting to that power of unconditional love that is going to satisfy us. That's why it's so important. I mean, for me, my meditations are so important. And I know I skipped my meditations for a couple mornings this week because I had a lot to do, and this morning I was a little frazzled, so I made sure to meditate, and it just makes such a difference when I can focus on that energy of unconditional love, right, Myrna?
Absolutely. Unconditional love. I like that because when we begin to feel the unconditional love of God, it's always there. But when we accept it, then we begin to feel it. And then we begin to recognize the difference really between the world. It shifts us into another aspect of not the world, but away from the world. We become less entangled with the world when we recognize it's real. It's not real. I mean, real. It just isn't real. You know, I listen to sometimes I listen to near-death experiences on YouTube, and so many people come up with the same conclusion. We get it from A Course in Miracles, but they in going through their NDE, they find that the world is not real. The real reality is what they're experiencing with their, expulsion from the world and into the world of spirit. Of course, I'm not saying we have to die to get there. We can receive it right here and now, and this is what we strive to do. We find that it's there for us to experience the world beyond this world. And it also brings me to today's lesson, really, which has to do with sickness. And I thought about that because, you know, I normally get the flu once in a while, and I know when I get the flu, the onset of the flu can last from that day one for a long time, and then I'm left with coughing and so forth. Anyway, my daughter was due to visit in the middle of this flu. So I called her up and I said, gee, you know, Karen, you're coming to visit. I feel, listen, I couldn't even speak. I had no voice. She says, I'm going to come anyway. It's okay. It's okay. I'm going to come. So I was delighted. So she comes through the door with a chicken, okay, and vegetables. And she's going to make me chicken soup to heal me from the flu. Now, if you're Jewish, you know what chicken soup is. Chickens, I think every Jewish mother in the world has made their sick child chicken soup because it has healing qualities. So she made this big, in fact, the pot wasn't big enough. So my other daughter had to come over and bring a tremendous pot to really make me a sizable feast of chicken soup. Anyway, I had the chicken soup, and that's what I ate for days afterwards. And you know what? 3 days later, I was feeling better, much better. All the symptoms of the flu went away. They say that chicken soup has medicinal qualities, but I have to laugh at that because here, you know, that's the illusion. The illusion is that I truly believe that the chicken soup was healing me and I got better. But of course, deep down, I know better. I know that that the sickness is a defense against the truth. And I probably somewhere in my mind, I was feeling guilty. So I think that's why we get sick, because even though sickness serves no purpose except to the ego, I believe that somewhere I got the fact that you're not going to substitute one illusion for another. Instead of taking antibiotics, having chicken soup, well, that's one illusion, replaced with another. So it was a really very telling experience. And I'm so happy to be back to square one. I'm feeling great. I really am. And so that was my whole saga. Flu, and my daughter visiting at the same time. It was nice.
Well, that's a nice story, Myrna. I mean, what came to my mind is maybe you gave that chicken soup healing powers. It's like if we think that something is going to cure us, maybe it does, but is it that, thing that cures us? Is it that food that cures us? Is it that pill that cures us? Maybe it's our thought, because we
Yeah,
give that thing the power.
right.
I think that Jesus says in A Course in Miracles, pills really can't do anything. However, if you're afraid not to take them, by all means, take them. So I like that story, though. I like chicken soup. I know my husband and I, well, especially my husband, whenever he's sick, he wants me to go to the store and get him chicken soup, because he really, I guess, as a child, his mother must have given him chicken soup as well. And he's not even Jewish. So a lot of families do that. There probably is something medicinal in chicken soup, probably. Um, yeah, great story. And I'm glad you're feeling better, Myrna, and you look beautiful as always. So I had uh, an interesting discussion with a friend of mine at the gym. Again, a lot of my life happens at the gym, because I'm at the gym just about every morning. So I was cycling with a friend of mine. And at the end of our time together, we start talking about the subject of giving. And I thought this was such an interesting discussion. He's very, very intelligent. He is not a Course in Miracles student. He is a traditional Christian gentleman. Lovely, lovely. And we talk about the subject of giving. So in his mind, there is a few homeless people in the area that I live. And this particular gentleman, when they come up to him and ask him for money, he doesn't want to give them money because he doesn't know what they're going to do with the money, but he always offers them a free meal, which is so beautiful. I mean, it really is. He said to this particular homeless couple, well, I'm not going to give you money, but if you want me to buy you dinner, I'd be more than happy to buy you dinner, which is like so beautiful. So he bought this homeless couple a fairly expensive dinner. He didn't know them, and that is extremely generous. And I applaud him for doing that. I am impressed by his kindness and his generosity. However, that led us to the discussion of giving. And I started saying to him, and I've said that before here in Pal Talk, how when I give to a homeless person, or it could be to any person, but just maybe talking about the homeless population for a moment, if somebody asks me for money and I give to a homeless person, I don't give for them per se. I give because it feels so good to give. Now, A Course in Miracles is very clear that giving and receiving are the same. So I never ever want to feel superior to anyone, and I don't want to feel inferior to anyone either, because that is not of God. The ego loves to, the ego loves to feel superior, right? But whenever I feel superior, I'm just going into ego territory, But if I do choose to give $1 or 5 or 10 to somebody who wants money, and maybe he's homeless right now or she's homeless right now, again, I don't give for them. I make sure to give for myself, because I feel good. It feels good for me to give. And I feel like that is what real giving is. Because if I give and I feel like I'm sacrificing, that is not of God. I mean, I wrote a whole chapter about that in my book. If I give and it's draining, if I give and it's sacrificial, that's the ego's way of giving. If you give and it feels good and it empowers both the giver and the receiver, that's giving of God. So he did not agree with me. It really triggered him when I said that. I said, I give because it feels, good to give. And he's like, well, if you're feeling good when you give, well, that's not giving at all. And I said, oh, well, I would tend to disagree with you. He's like, you can't disagree with me. It says that in the dictionary, that when you give, you lose. I was like, really? And I thought it was such an interesting discussion, because he really, this just happened a couple hours ago. And he's very, very intelligent. This is a very, very intelligent man, because I mean, I've known him for years, and he's so, intelligent, and his thoughts. And I agree with most of what he said, but he was adamant about the fact that if you give and it feels good, it's not giving, because when you give, you have to lose what you give. And it's so interesting, because I think a lot of the traditional Christian thought system teaches that it's good to sacrifice, it's good to give, it's good to feel drained. And that is really polar opposite to what I learned in A Course in Miracles, because A Course in Miracles is all about empowerment. And the more, just like what I just recited, when I am connected to my joy, I am connected to Christ consciousness. A Course in Miracles is very clear that when I am not joyful, or when I feel depleted of my energy, I'm not connected to God. Where this particular gentleman, again, was adamant about the fact that if you give and it feels good, you're not giving at all. And then Dove wrote in the chat room to give all to all. ACIM text 6.5a. What do you think, Myrna? Any thoughts?
Yeah, the Course in Miracles says don't judge, but I couldn't help sitting back and sort of judging in a way, because I'm thinking, well, this guy obviously isn't a Course in Miracles student, because he's still tied to the world's belief that when you give, you lose. And we certainly know, we spent 35 years coming away from that notion, that thought. So, I really certainly don't, I'm not on the same page, let's put it that way, with him. And at the same time, he's saying that, well, he gives a meal, he likes to give a meal to a homeless person, which I'm sure is very appreciated by a homeless person. If he's willing to take a homeless person and give them a meal, why is he doing it? Is he thinking that he's losing out by doing it? I mean, so there's a lot of conflicting stuff going on here about that. But all you can do really, and the best thing to do, is not judge anyone. I mean, in other words, as you do, you've known him a long time, you found his premise interesting, and, you kind of just let him express it, which is really very good. If we don't lose patience with our brother, recognizing that we're all on different levels of learning, and we're all learning, we're just, again, on different tiers of learning. So very interesting. Yeah.
I actually looked up giving and receiving in Robert Carey's glossary of terms from A Course in Miracles, because I think it's just really interesting to me. And I'm glad that this subject came up because it's kind of a huge topic for me because I'm very aware of the fact that if I'm giving and I feel drained, I'm connected to my ego. If I'm giving and I feel empowered, I'm connecting to God. Like it's a huge talking point for me in terms of how Course in Miracles is so different from how I was raised. Now, here in the glossary of terms from A Course in Miracles, the subject is giving/receiving. I mean, A Course in Miracles is very clear, is that when we give, God has but one son, and when we give, we're giving to ourselves. So we can never be depleted of energy. Okay, so here is the conventional definition. So this is where my friend was coming from, I believe. The conventional definition is giving is the opposite of receiving. For what you give, you lose. Like he was very adamant about the fact that if you give and you don't lose, you're not giving. And that's what was so intriguing to me. Giving, therefore, is usually a subtle way to obligate someone to give you something back, something more valuable than what you gave away. The Course calls this giving to get and says that what is really given in this case is guilt. That's so interesting. That is so interesting to me. And also I've had a lot of relationships like that. Like I've given a lot to ex-boyfriends because I didn't want them to leave me. I wanted them to feel indebted to me because I never wanted to be abandoned. So a lot of my relationships with men, my special relationships, as A Course in Miracles calls them, were based on guilt. So here is the ACIM definition. ACIM, giving and receiving are the same. The real gift is not the physical thing, which you do lose, but the idea of love behind it. See, that's how I feel when I give to someone homeless or someone who's not homeless. I need to give out of love. So it makes me realize how much love I have within to give. And when you give an idea, you do not lose it. Rather, it increases as it is shared with others. Moreover, you will not recognize what you have received until you give it, for giving is the proof of having. Your gift proves that you have an idea and that you deserve to receive it. According to the Course, this is one of its most important and most radical concepts. So I think, that is wonderful. I mean, I think this is a wonderful, wonderful definition. And this is what I learned through A Course in Miracles. That, I mean, I've done it. I've given. I mean, I have this one story where I was struggling financially, and I believed that tithing was good, which it is. And I went to the bank and I took all the money out of my checking account. And then I went to the Unity Church in Manhattan and I put all the money in my checking account. I think it was a few $100s. I didn't have that much, but I put all the money in my checking account in this, little basket when they passed the basket around to donate to. And I did it with the intention of getting money back. I'm like, there you go, God. I gave all my money away. Now, let the money come into me. So I gave with the specific intention of receiving more in return. Obviously, I didn't make a windfall of cash after that. But that would be a good example how giving to get does not work. The whole reason tithing works is because when we give out of abundance, because we're always creating our own experience. So if we give with an abundant mindset, it does come back to us, not because because we gave. But when we feel abundant, that's what the universe reflects to us. What do you think, Myrna?
Yeah. When I'm trying to, I had a thought and I want to articulate it about giving. So, when we give and we feel that we're sacrificing by giving, sometimes we give to buy love, right? We want someone's love. So that's another, I think, ego trap. Thinking we're going to get someone to love us. Well, I've certainly, as you have learned, that's not the case. So, what is giving? Giving is a matter of giving to yourself, give to somebody else, and you feel that you're receiving a satisfaction within yourself, not because you are reckoning to buy someone's love, but you're really kind of doing it to. I'm only speaking for myself, and I give very freely, actually, very freely to homeless people because I've noticed that they're always very appreciative, and that makes me feel good. Very often you'll get God bless, thank you. I mean, what could be better than that? So to me, right, wrong, or indifferent, this is one of the reasons that I give. And it makes me feel good. We learn from the Course in Miracles that giving and receiving really are one and the same. So we are getting back. We're giving back because when you're giving through love, that's what you're really giving, really from the heart, is to give out of love. Then of course you're getting it back. Don't you love yourself that much more? Self-love is the greatest love of all. So I generate a lot of self-love, I think, in that respect. I don't ever feel that I'm sacrificing. I'll tell you one quick story. When you brought up a homeless person, when I was living in New York, and I was coming home. I had my store in New York on 81st Street, and it was probably the coldest day of the year. It was nighttime, like 7 o'clock at night. It was so cold that there was no one on the street. I mean, it had to be like 5 degrees out. And there was a homeless man, and he was asking me for money. And my first thought was, it's too cold. I'm not stopping. Forget it. I'm just going to keep walking. But I couldn't do that. So I stopped. I said, okay, okay, okay. And opened up my wallet and I gave him $1. And he said to me, well, thank you for the $1. He says, I want to give you something. So he's got this folder. He says, I'm an artist. And he has all these sketches. And he gives me a sketch. I thought it was so nice that I actually had it framed, you know. But the interesting part was that was his spot. So every day when I would pass him, we'd say hello, hello. And when I would give him $1, he would give me a drawing. And I remember his name. I'll never forget it. His name was Richard. And one day, and I would talk to him. Really, it got to the point where we were almost friends, and he was complaining that his mother wants nothing to do with him. So I said to him, "I'm your mother." That's what came out. I mean, it was the connection was very purposeful. It was a friendship that was formed from something that I just could have avoided, or because I stopped, a whole manifestation of something else developed. So that's what comes to mind. Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I like that story. I like that story very much. I actually remember that story and I think it's a beautiful, beautiful story. So you gave $1 and you got a beautiful sketch. I know you didn't give $1 for a beautiful sketch, but it's a perfect example of giving and receiving in return. I mean, I'm sure Richard felt good about giving the sketch to you. It's like when we can give and the other person appreciates what we give, it really brings a lot of joy to our heart. I mean, I'm so clear that when I feel like I'm sacrificing, when I give and I feel drained, I just feel very clear that I'm in ego territory. When I give and I feel joyful, I am connected to Holy Spirit, because sacrificing is not of God. And I grew up in a very sacrificial household. I mean, I remember my relationship with my father is that I would always try so hard to give him something that he would appreciate. And my father never allowed himself. That's a very good word. My father never allowed himself to appreciate other people's gifts, because I think in his mind, if he appreciated what other people did for him, he would feel indebted to them. It was a guilt. He didn't want to feel indebted to anyone. So he never allowed himself to appreciate anything. And I wasn't aware of this when I was a kid, but all I know is I was always trying to give my father something that he would enjoy. I was always trying so hard to impress my father and gain his approval. So there was a lot of guilt that I grew up with. And I'm not feeling, bad or unfairly treated. I think it's all divinely orchestrated. And I think, there were a lot of important lessons that my soul needed to learn through that relationship that I had with my father, which is what Rob Schwartz teaches, your friend, that we come down to this earthly classroom and we kind of set certain lessons up for ourselves. So I think the fact that there was a lot of guilt that went on between my father and I kind of set myself up to be a Course in Miracles student, to realize the true definition of giving. And if you're giving out of guilt, or you're not appreciating what other people do for you, you are not connected to source energy. You're not connected to love. When people give me a gift, it's so important for me and for them to be appreciative of that gift. I mean, that's just such a important, loving connection that can be created by being appreciative, because again, giving and receiving are the same. God has but one son, and we're all part of that sonship. So when I give, when I give something, as we just read in the glossary of terms, if we give a material thing, it's not the material thing that's important, it's the love that is important. It's the love behind the giving of the material thing that's important, not the actual material thing. And when it comes to ideas, when we share our ideas with other people, those ideas exacerbate themselves within our own mind, and A Course in Miracles also says very clearly, we don't know how much is within us until we give it away. So that is the blessing of sharing ideas. I mean, that is the blessing of giving out of love. Like, we don't know how much we have within us unless the universe gives us an opportunity to share this love with our brother. Thoughts?
Everything you say is all Course in Miracles, the sharing and the love and the giving and receiving. It's all one and the same. These are all Course in Miracles principles. And what can be better? When we live the principles, that's all we really need to do. We don't even have to read the Course in Miracles. We don't even have to define it anymore. We just understand what we're supposed to be doing. It finally unfolds. The lessons that we've been learning all these years finally gives us a place to take off from. It's almost like taking off from from a runway. You're sort of like we're running and running, and finally you're up, and understanding really what you need to do in every situation. And I really think that I just have come so far since then. I just feel terrific all the time. I am almost apologizing for it right now, but I really don't allow myself to feel anything than wonderful. We talked about chicken soup, but I know it wasn't the chicken soup, the medicinal qualities they say it had. That's of the world. The truth of the matter is I probably would have healed anyway, because my mind is such that I'm not feeling guilt. I really don't allow myself to feel guilt, because I understand that guilt is just of the ego. It has nothing to do with who I am. I know that. And God knows that I know that. And the connection with God is so relevant because it comes through so wholly and clearly. So I love to hear you speak, because it's kind of, I'm on that same level of understanding. It's really very wonderful, you know. And I just talked about sickness. I want to just read from my own book, which I don't usually do, but I like this lesson, because when I did write private lessons with Jesus, what I did was I just put the title of the lesson into the computer. And in fact, I put the Course in Miracles away for an entire year, and everything came from the title of the lesson. So this one, only salvation can be said to cure. I'm going to read it. Salvation, which is truth, is yours for the asking, and clears away all obstacles which distract you from your true purpose. The healing powers of the world's medicines are attempts to make illusions real. They are no more real than the ego's wish to make it so. The decision to offer forgiveness is the first step towards healing. What restores the body to wholeness is of the mind, and the mind must be a willing participant before any outcome is revealed. The body will respond only to that which it believes is reality. What the mind seeks, it will find. If it seeks truth and relinquishes unforgiving thoughts stored within the far corners of the mind, it will be found. The body will respond only to that which believes it is its reality. If its purpose is to hold the ego's thought system in place, it will also believe it can become sick, one of the ego's great deceptions. It will then rely on the world's magic powers for healing, thereby blocking the way to true healing, which is of God. Okay, so in essence, what it's saying, we believe in medicines, and it's okay, to take the medicine, because it's there, that the ego does rely on it, and it does, when we relate to that, it does work, because we're giving into the ego's belief system. But, I'm laughing because, we're really relying on the world's magic powers for healing, and that's what we do. So once we recognize that true healing comes from the essence, the complete oneness that we share with God, that's really all there is, and that's what we're really here to feel, and that's the true cure. The connection with God.
Thank you, Myrna. And Rev Wayne wrote in chat, there is no remedy the world provides that can affect a change in anything. ACIM Workbook 140. Thank you, Rev Wayne. And what I wanted to comment is I think your channeling of lesson 140 is brilliant. I mean, it's all brilliant, but what really I resonated even more so with is the middle of this paragraph. What? Oh, it's so great, Myrna. I love this. The body will respond only to that which it believes is its reality. So is there one truth? Yes, there is one truth. The only thing that's real is the love. However, we will respond to whatever we consider to be our reality. So if we're not connected to source energy, if we're coming from an ego idea, that's what we're going to respond to. That's what we're going to see. That's what we're going to focus upon. What the mind seeks, it will find. So if we're looking for love, we're going to find the love. If we're looking for fear, we're going to find the fear. We're going to tap into the fear. And then you write, if it seeks truth with a capital T and relinquishes unforgiving thoughts stored within the far corners of the mind, it will be found. You know, this relates so well to what I was listening to in A Course in Miracles text today. Jesus was stressing that in order to heal, we cannot hide anything from God. We cannot hide anything from the Holy Spirit. Illusions must be brought to the light in order to heal themselves. That is so important. I mean, the world teaches that we always have to appear together. The world teaches just to tuck our insecurities far away so nobody can see them. Course in Miracles teach us the exact opposite. You know, when we are acting out, you know, in the world, when we're triggered and we're showing our triggers, you know, our ego might be embarrassed, our ego might be humiliated, but God is applauding our honesty because he can't heal us until we show him what is within us that needs healing. We can't be healed until we allow our darkness to come to the light, you know. So it's just so amazing how that works. You know, there are times in my life that I consider to be very messy, and God considers these same times to be extremely transformational, because once we show God our insecurities, he can take them from us. I strongly believe that illusion must be brought to the light. And again, thank you for reading that. I love what you just read, Myrna. So beautiful. You know, okay, so another point that I thought was very interesting is that I had a trigger. And again, I give Dove all the credit for this. Triggers are our teachers. And I always think of Dove when this happens, because, you know, when we get triggered, it's, you know, it's a lesson. We're learning, we're growing. So I went to this job. It was a trade show job. And I went to the table that I was instructed to go to, and there were two other brand ambassadors at my table. And one of them was extremely pretty. She was a very, very pretty young lady. However, she was also extremely difficult, like very, very difficult. You know, she was very controlling. She started telling me exactly what to do. She was very snippy, you know, and I was aware of this, and I thought of Dove. She's triggering me, so she is my teacher. She's my teacher. And that immediately went into my mind, you know, and I guess because I saw it that way and I didn't take it personally, it didn't trigger me as much as it could have. I mean, she still triggered me. Don't get me wrong, but not as much as she could have. So I kind of saw it as a lesson, a learning lesson. I also saw it as kind of comical, you know. So when she would try to tell me what to do, I would just kind of make a little joke and not laugh at her, but just, you know, not get offended by it, not react to it, you know, do my best to send her love, because I guess that's what she was calling for. And after about 30 minutes of sending her lots of love and not taking her criticisms and controlling nature and judgments personally, I felt better. And then she actually apologized to me, which was very interesting. She apologized to me. She says, you know I was being snippy, and I just want to say I'm sorry. So I thought, wow, that's kind of a really brilliant lesson. I don't react. I send her love. I kind of step out of it a little bit to see the I guess to see the laughter, to see the joy, to see that it's not really happening. This is just part of the illusion. So I didn't get as deep into it as I would have in the past. And she ended up apologizing. And again, continued to trigger me a little bit, but I think overall it went pretty well and it was a pretty good lesson. Thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I'm trying to think of what triggers me, what has triggered me lately. I always, spout that and nothing triggers me, that I've gotten past it, but triggers. And as you say, as Dove has said, that triggers are our teachers, really. And what do we learn from it? Trying to think, I had an episode with my boyfriend about a week ago. It was he got mad at something, so mad at something that I said that was so innocent, that he said that I'm going home. So I said, well, if you go home, you can't come back. That was my, you go home, you're not coming back. Okay. So he, I guess maybe he didn't want to test me. So he goes, okay. So he didn't go home, but what does he do? He sleeps on my couch. He's not going to sleep on, he's going to be in my house. He's not going home, but he's going to sleep on the couch, and I saw that really in a way as an olive branch. How could I be mad at him after, he was trying to make a point. He didn't want to leave because he was afraid of really, well, you didn't want to take it that far. But the next morning, I said to him, I don't get it. Why did you sleep on the couch? I said, you should have gone into the guest room. There's a bed in there. At least you'd be more comfortable. I guess he had to be uncomfortable at the same time to kind of, I don't know, teach me my lesson. But the truth is, we made up very quickly after that, because I didn't hold a grievance, and I really didn't. So you talk about triggered, being triggered. Yeah, I was triggered because I felt that he was attacking me. That's how I perceived it. But that's how we squared it off. We kind of healed it together, I guess. So I thought that was a good story. I think if it wasn't for the Course in Miracles and my have come so far, I would have maybe carried it further. I did in the old days. I was not. I thought I was probably a person who was able to forgive, because if somebody offered me, even if I was mad at someone, if they came around to my way of thinking, I could forgive it. But I guess, I've come much further than that. I don't allow anything really to get to the point where I can't forgive it. I think I can probably forgive anything. And so that's Course in Miracles. It's taught me that. And what's taught me that is God has forgiven me for what I thought I did. We think we're sinners, so to speak. And like the song Amazing Grace says, you healed a wretch like me. That's exactly, I relate to those words, because I was a wretch. I believe in certain ways years ago. As a result of an abusive childhood. But, I've come so far, and I'm so happy that I can absolutely share all of my feelings about that with God, with Jesus, and I've done that. So there's nothing left but to feel love.
I think people that trigger us are definitely our teachers, because they are giving us opportunities to forgive. Like this pretty young lady who triggered me at my job yesterday. She was definitely my teacher. She was much younger than me. And I remember even when she was triggering me, I said, because she was very organized, she was very meticulous. Everything had to be just so, just so, just so. And I remember saying to the other rep that she kind of reminded me of me a little bit when I was her age, because I was very super structured and organized, and I didn't want anything to be out of place, but I definitely believe the people that do trigger us are presenting us with opportunities to love them, despite their fear. And again, a very clear phrase that I say often is, we don't grow closer to God despite our challenges. We grow closer to God because of our challenges. Without the challenges, we would never grow as much as we could. And thank you, Dove. Dove just wrote a little nice chat in the chat room. Thank you, Dove.
By the way,
Um,
happy birthday, Doug. It was his birthday on May 12th. I didn't forget, by the way. Happy birthday.
oh yeah, happy birthday. Happy birthday. There's lots of May
Yes,
birthdays, I will say.
yeah.
So, um, and another interesting experience that I had from another friend of mine who is a traditional Christian. She brought up a certain phrase that I disagreed with, but it really made me think as to why I disagreed with it. I was sharing with her something that happened between my sister and I, and she responded by saying, well, this is what I think you should do because you should be the better person. Now, I understand what she was saying, to kind of rise above the fear and love. So I agree with that part of her response. But the whole phrase that she said, and again, I've heard this in traditional Christianity. That's where I've heard it, that if I want to think that I'm the better person, it just takes everything away, because all of a sudden I go into ego territory. All of a sudden I go into the thought system of the ego. I mean, if we forgive another person, but we feel like we're the better person because we're letting them off the hook, that does not come from God. That comes from the ego. So I have to be very careful, and I even said that to her. I said, well, I agree with your insights here, but I don't want to come from the place where I think I'm better. And she says, oh, you know what I mean. I do know what she means, but I also feel like it's so important as a Course in Miracles student, to never feel better than anyone else. Because the moment, if I forgive someone else and I feel like I'm better than that person because I forgive him, that is not real forgiveness. Because real forgiveness has to do with equality. Real forgiveness, is about erasing the mistake. Real forgiveness is loving someone despite their fear, not because I'm better, but just maybe because I'm seeing more clearly than them at this specific time. A Course in Miracles clearly says we're all going to get back to heaven. What is heaven? Heaven is a mindset. Heaven is a place of peace, love, joy, and happiness. the only difference is some people are going to get there sooner than others. Some people will become enlightened before others. You know, the ones that become enlightened more quickly will have the responsibility of helping other people get home to heaven. But it's never because anyone's better. I mean, Jesus Christ says very clearly that he is not better than us. He says, what I have done, and this is something that I love to recite, well, you know, this is out of my Linda Goodman's Love Signs book, which is a quote from the Bible. Jesus says, what I have done, you can do also and more. Go thou and do likewise. These are not claims of spiritual exclusivity. What was being demonstrated were manifestations of the divine within each of us, miracles we all could perform, though not without sacrifice, not without certain disciplines to bring mind, body, and emotions under control. Strange that the word disciple is in the word discipline. However, it might not be strange at all. Now, the one word in that quote that in the past I have disagreed with was her use of the word sacrifice, because sacrifice is not of God. Course in Miracles is very clear about that. Sacrifice is of the ego. But I think how Linda Goodman meant it is to sacrifice the goal, sacrifice the immediate gratification of the ego for the higher goals of the spirit. So I love that paragraph, because I think that's Course in Miracles in a nutshell. Heaven is an awareness of perfect oneness. That's in the text, chapter 18, section 6. Heaven is an awareness of perfect oneness. Dove just wrote that in the chat room. Brilliant, Dove. As usual. Thank you for sharing. Myrna?
Yes, it is. It is. Heaven is an awareness of perfect oneness. That is heaven. When we experience, as Jesus has, perfect oneness, I mean, that's when he understood that he was in heaven, really, no matter what was transpiring beneath the altitude of oneness, of above, I think of greatness, which is higher. He understood that. And yeah, it really is. I mean, we can find heaven right here. We don't have to literally die before we experience heaven. And we don't, and Course in Miracles tells us not even to think about that, think about dying, what to expect after death, as opposed to, living a life on this earth. What we need to do, what the Course aims to teach us, is that we can find heaven. And the important thing is just to remain right here in the moment, understanding that where we are is where we're supposed to be. And that is the heavenly quality that we are understanding, that where we are, that we know that that's what it is. That's the explanation that we're given. And I just love that. And that keeps us really from holding on to grievances or nurturing past thoughts, because we're not in the moment. And the ego is everything but in the moment. It keeps us away from that benevolence. And heaven is the greatest thing in the world. I feel it. I feel heaven. I do feel it. I feel the Holy Spirit speaking to me, nurturing me, comforting me, soothing me. I can go on and on and on. I know that what heaven is like. I've gotten a taste of it. And to stay in that place by just being in, bring ourselves back to the moment when we manage to kind of shift away from it. And that takes practice, and that's what the Course in Miracles teaches as well. It teaches practice. We allow ourselves much too much mind wandering, and you and I have said that many, many times. So by preventing the mind wandering, we have to recognize when it's happening, and when it's happening, to come back to the moment. It gets us to understand that's what we really want to be. That's what we're supposed to be. So again, the practice has finally worked with me. I'm not better than anyone else by no means. I'm not saying that or even implying that. I just understand what it's like to recognize the oneness and to feel it. Because that's what it is. It's all about feeling it. Any thoughts about that, Susan?
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. I think that's brilliant. I looked over on my wall and I have a picture, and underneath trees, the inscription is allow yourself to be right where you are. And that was a calendar, a gift that my sister gave to me. And I just thought that 1 month's picture was so beautiful. Allow yourself to be right where you are. It's like the affirmation that I love to say to myself that just calms me down. What if everything is just perfect right here, right now? It's accepting the present moment and being fully present in that moment. I mean, that's a quality that I love when I can be present in the moment and be with you. And I'm so grateful when my friend is able to be fully present with me. I think that is the quality that I admire more than any other quality, is somebody who is able to be truly present with me. And when I can exhibit that quality, I feel at peace as well. So it is 2:31. Time flies when you're having fun.
I was just
Thank
thinking that.
thank you, thank you. So I will say thank you. I love you, Myrna. This was a beautiful, beautiful hour. And thank you, everyone who is listening. And as A Course in Miracles says, nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. The only thing that's real is the love. And I will now return the microphone to Lynn.
Thank you so much, Susan and Myrna. Wonderful sharing, and grateful that you are here today. So, thank you so much, and we'll see you all